This show is sponsored by Stan. Whether you're commuting or doing chores, you can listen right along. Listen a little every day. Grow a little every day. Let's make progress together. All right, welcome. We all have those apps we absolutely love, right? The tools that run our lives. But what if I told you the very thing that makes them so easy to use is also their biggest flaw? Let's get into the hidden dangers that are probably lurking in your favorite cloud apps. So just think about it for a second. That one app where you keep everything, all your brilliant ideas, your meeting notes, maybe even your private journal entries. We pour our trust into these services, but should we? Is that data really truly ours? And more importantly, could it all just vanish one day? That's the big question we're tackling. So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with a story about a sudden disruption. Then we'll dig into why this kind of thing is bound to happen. That's the structural risk. After that, we'll talk solutions, the long-term fix. And finally, we'll look at how you can go from just being a user to being the designer of your own indestructible system. Okay, so let's set the scene. Imagine you've got this perfect note-taking app. It's sleek, it's fast, it's everywhere you need it to be. Phone, laptop, tablet. It's basically your second brain. And then, out of the blue, it just breaks. Now, this isn't just a hypothetical. It actually happened with an app called UpNote. In the morning, everything was humming along perfectly. Notes were syncing, life was good. But by the afternoon, boom! The sync feature was totally dead. No warning, no explanation. All those notes you took on your phone, now they're stuck there, completely cut off. It was like an instant digital prison. And here's the kicker. This wasn't some random bug or a server glitch that would get fixed in an hour. No, this was a symptom of a much bigger, more fundamental problem. The system wasn't broken. It was actually working exactly the way it was designed to. And that design, well, it's a trap. So this leads us right into the structural risk. We have to understand why these kinds of failures aren't just a possibility. They're pretty much a guarantee with these closed-off systems. See, the problem isn't your phone or your computer. The problem is on the company's end, totally out of your control. They might upgrade their servers or change how you log in or push a new security update. To them, it's just business as usual. But for you, it means your perfectly good app suddenly can't connect anymore. You're effectively locked out of your own data. This all boils down to a mindset we'll call tool-centric thinking. It's how most of us operate, right? We find a shiny new app and we start feeding it all our information. But here's the thing. We're not actually giving our data a permanent home. It's more like we're just renting an apartment for it. We get the keys, that's our access, but the vendor, they're the landlord. They own the building and they can change the locks whenever they want. So what's the inevitable outcome of this? Well, your login can be switched off at any moment. Your data becomes a hostage on some company's server farm. And even if they let you export your data, it often comes out in some bizarre format that nothing else can read. This isn't a flaw, people. It's a core part of their business model. Okay, that all sounds pretty bleak, I know, but here is the really good news. There is a way better approach. Let's talk about the solution. This is all about making a mental shift. From being a passive person who just uses tools to an active person who architects their own system. And this is the blueprint. It's a 5-layer cake for data freedom. The foundation, the most important part, is plain text, simple files like Markdown that any computer will be able to read 50 years from now. Then you add layers for structure, math, and archiving, all using open, universal formats. And the very last layer, that's your tools, your apps. They just become windows, interchangeable windows that you use to look at your files. You can swap them out anytime you want. And believe me, this isn't just a theory. Let's go back to that UpNote disaster. The user in that story had already built this kind of system. All their notes were already simple Markdown files. So when UpNote's sync died, it was just a small annoyance, not a total catastrophe. They just opened the exact same files in another app called Obsidian and kept right on working. Zero data lost, zero drama. Which brings us to the most empowering idea of all. This complete transformation you go through when you stop just consuming apps and you start designing your own workflow. I mean, just look at this comparison. It's night and day. In a closed system, the vendor calls all the shots. Access, format, sync, everything. The risk of getting cut off is massive. But in an open system that you build, you are in the driver's seat. Your files are right there on your computer. You decide how to back them up. If one app disappears, it barely even matters. We can actually capture this whole idea in a pretty neat formula. Let's call it knowledge resilience. Think of it as a fraction. On the top, you have how independent your data's format is. And on the bottom, you have how much you depend on any one company. And this is where the magic happens. As you shrink that bottom number, as your dependence on any single vendor gets closer and closer to zero, the resilience of your knowledge, your second brain, approaches infinity. Your data can outlive any app, any company, any tech trend. It becomes yours forever. And that really is the heart of it all. A tool lives and dies by its vendor's choices, but a system lives and dies by your design. You get to be in control. So if you're going to walk away with anything today, let it be these three things. 1, build everything around open formats, not closed-off apps. 2, start thinking of apps as just temporary lenses, not permanent vaults for your data. And 3, the big one, make that mental leap from being a passive user to an active designer of your own digital space. So, I'll leave you with this one question to think about tonight. Take a hard look at all the digital tools you rely on. What's the weakest link in your chain? Which one app holds the most power over you? Because finding that weak spot, that's the very first step to building something that can truly last. And that's all the time we have for today. Thanks so much for joining this explainer. If this was helpful for you, please think about subscribing and leaving a 5-star review. It really does help support the show. See you next time.